Hello and welcome to Brewing TV. I'm Jake Keeler.
And I'm Michael Dawson. We met up with the Widmer Brothers a while ago and talked with them about who they are, why they are who they are, where they are. Find out the answers to those questions and meet a couple of really funny dudes in this episode.
That's right, but before we get to that, we got something to show you.
Time to deliver on a promise. Tasting notes. Open versus closed. Videographer Chip Walton split a batch of Northern Brewer's Potter's beer recipe, and we're tasting the results here today. Half open fermented, half closed. Let's dig in.
All right, want to start with the open?
Yes.
Fruity.
Get a lot of bubble gum and a little bit of banana on top of some kind of green tree fruit, green apple, green pear kind of flavors and aromas.
Do you think that's more ester production with the open fermentation?
And more phenols, yep. Yeah, really round, nice and soft.
It's a refreshing beer on a hot
Very
summer
refreshing.
day.
A little bit of that kind of plasticky flavor that I associate with Hefeweizens too. Phenol production there, without the cloves though.
What about the closed? What do we see here? A bit more dry. Maybe a better attenuation of the yeast, perhaps?
Or less mouthfeel. Can be less mouthfeel.
Si, senor.
It's just a little bit cleaner. Those tree fruit, pear, apple aromatics come through a lot more. Not as much other stuff laying on top of them, kind of getting in the way. It's a little bit simpler beer. It's a little more Pilsner-like almost.
Yeah. I think out of the two, I prefer the closed fermentation version. I think the extra flavors in the open fermentation start to mask some of the nice qualities of Potter's beer.
See, I kind of like the open better because it's more complex. It's still very light and approachable.
Oh, you're like that though.
Complex, light,
I'm a simple man.
approachable. You're not clean though.
No. I'm just something that I know and understand. So the real question is, Chip, which one do you prefer?
Open.
Chip likes the open. Well, golly gee, Dawson, we're bickering like a couple of brothers here.
Hey, that reminds me. We should show you guys our conversation with Kurt and Rob.
Yeah, we should.
All for brew.
Brew for all. Either way, this is a good beer, open or closed.
Nice job, Chip. Thanks a million, Chip.
Yeah, well done. When you tour the Widmer Brothers brewery in Portland, Oregon, the last thing you might think of is homebrewing. This place is a far cry from the 5-gallon batches in your basement.
The brewery is mammoth. One batch is 250 barrels, and they can brew up to 10 batches in a 24-hour period. Large fermenters hold 2, 3, even 6 batches at a time. That's 1,500 barrels of beer. There's a tunnel that carries beer under the street into tanks in another facility. And the packaging department, with its giant robots, can handle 500 bottles a minute or up to 300 kegs an hour.
So from here, these guys can control brewing. They can control where the direction of the beer flow. Like if we want to send beer across the street for clarification or back for packaging or racking, they can control that. They can control cleaning. Everything has its own cleaning system, and they can control CIPing tanks from here. Yeah, so they can direct wort to whichever tank that they want, including across the street, and it's a pretty remarkable system.
But after a few minutes of talking to Rob and Kurt Widmer, their roots in homebrewing and their humor began to shine through. Oh my God!
Maybe that's.
You sleep with this? You sleep with this woman every night? Oh my God!
You sleep like with a gun under your pillow, you know. I mean,
The do-it-yourself attitude began with their first brewery.
it's something that we built ourselves, and we were very proud of it, and we thought it was beautiful. And then when we look here and we look back at that video, it's like, oh my God, you know. But anyhow, for the first 1,000 batches that we brewed on that, and it was a 10-barrel system, we changed something every single time. Literally every time. A procedure, not ingredients every time, but we changed a procedure, and it resulted in subtle changes to the beer over those 1,000 batches, you know. I mean, one of us would come in, you know, and say, what if we did this? And when you're little and you're draft only, you can do things like that. When we were homebrewing, I mean, hell, we changed things dramatically. I mean, you know, but I mean, who cares? And I mean, my friends are drinking free beer, they're going to complain. It's like, get out. You know?
Rob and Kurt have been proud members of the Oregon Brew Crew Homebrew Club for about 30 years.
Yeah, well, I think the whole thing started with homebrewers. I mean, that's where the original, I mean, that's where we started. You know, people who had interest in beer, you know, a lot of them moved into homebrewing pretty quickly. So I think that was really the genesis of the reemergence of small brewing. It started with, I mean, early on, most of our customers were those guys, you know, our best customers.
Well, you know, I think that a lot of the people that maybe didn't start breweries in Oregon, but are active in breweries in Oregon are from the Oregon Brew Crew.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys started like we did, which is strictly as a hobby. I mean, we didn't join the brew crew thinking someday we'll have a brewery. You know, we joined it just because we were a couple of knotheads and thought that we could benefit from the experience of guys that kind of went ahead of us.
You know, a lot of commercial brewers are still home brewers, and a lot of, you know, home brewers are, you know, part-time or full-time or headed that way. You know, a lot of the guys were home brewers, and so it's definitely intertwined.
It's one of those it's something that no other city can point to. You know, certainly not on the scale that Portland has. So it truly is unique. It's remarkable. Hey, come on! This is going to go nationwide. Be careful.
I don't think there's anything. We did it totally legal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
The Widmers maintain a close relationship with the Oregon Brew Crew, providing a larger forum for members' creativity. Through its collaborator project, Widmer Brothers selects homebrew recipes and brings the creator in to brew a 10-barrel batch with brewery staff. The beer is then served at bars and pubs throughout Portland.
And we pay the brew crew, we give them $4 a barrel for every barrel that we sell. And so far, to date, they send all that money to Oregon State University for the Bob McCracken Scholarship Fund for brewers. So it's a pretty cool deal. I mean, it's fun for us because we're exposed to a lot of techniques and ingredients that we just would not do. I mean, one of the last beers, the 11th anniversary beer, called for 80 loaves of rye bread, pumpernickel rye bread, cubed. That's not something that we would, you know, typically do. And we thought, you know, this is going to be a mess, but it worked, and it added kind of a neat character to the beer.
It's that element of experimentation that was and still is essential to the evolution of craft beer.
We had the license from day one to go nuts.
Yeah, there weren't any rules.
Yeah, I mean, we've got guys that I don't know if they're still doing it, but they were throwing candy bars in, you know, and they were, you know, people were laying awake at night trying to think of new wacky things to throw into beer, you know, and it didn't always work, but nobody ever said, hey, you can't do that, you know, I mean, because why not? I think this interview is quickly closing. Yeah.
I love beer. I love the people who drink beer. I love the people who make the beer. I love the places where they do those things. And you know, it's a part of the pie. You know, it's a key ingredient in the whole thing that I love. You know, I'm not sure I can get much more detailed that, but it's just like I was saying, it's so interwoven with what we do. You know, that's where we started. You know, we still work with those guys, and it's a part of the whole thing.
I like
not very eloquent, but
well, no, that's good. I think that captures it. I like the passion that's associated with home brewing, and I mean, if you think about it, if you invest like an entire Saturday afternoon cleaning your equipment and then brewing and cooling everything down and then cleaning it and putting it away, you don't want to just waste your time doing that. And so you want it to be good. You want it to be great. I mean, you don't want it to be something that you're just going to throw down the drain. Why would you even waste your time doing that? So you want it to be great, and you want it also to be something that you're going to be proud to share with family and friends. Don't put that in the film. Edit that out.
After our visit with the Widmer Brothers, we were pretty thirsty, so we headed to the Gast House across the street from the brewery.
We're here at the Widmer Gas House. Thanks again to Kurt and Rob Widmer for their generosity and time.
They're fun guys to talk to. We're sitting here about to drink some beers that we can't get back home, and we're going to share them with you. What do you have, Jake?
I have the Daft Bitter, which is the current collaborator beer. I guess it was just put on tap, not pretty recently. What are you going to have?
I'm having the alt beer. It's Dusseldorfer style. It's a really beautiful, clear mahogany color. It smells like baking bread. It's really clean, really nice. And I'll tell you what the flavor's like in just 1 second. That's good. Lots more bread, a little bit of coffee, roast note, and some dark tea, fading hop bitterness in the background. It's dry. It's really, really nice. How's the bitter?
Well, it's got a nice nose, good hops up front, but not overpowering. Not overly floral. It's not as bitter as I might expect it to be.
It's kind of a British style.
Very, very much so. It's got a nice color and it's got a nice caramelly malt profile. It feels much more robust than the alcohol level would allude to. This is the kind of bitter that I like.
Is there a kind of bitter you don't like?
This collaborator project, of course,
This
is.
is the extra one for
And now we just got some more.
Oh, awesome. Thanks much.
Let me check the.
Beans.
So that's all beer top.
Is that beer
damn.
tablet? Okay. Thanks, man. This is all beer de table? Is that what he said?
Oh, cool.
I'm going to find out. No. This is an IPA.
This
This
maybe
is the
this
beer de table. This is like a really nice light saison. It's like 3%. It's very pale, very clear. It's got a nice, soft, kind of bubblegummy nose. Yeah, lots more cloves, bubblegum.
How about that?
phenols,
How about that
spicy.
IPA? Woo! Yeah. Man, now when you're in Portland, this is what you come here to smell.
It's all hops from front to back.
Yeah.
It's lots of grapefruit, like you said, but it's like this really pungent, super resiny, juicy fruit, almost.
Kurt talked a bit about consistency and having, something that people have come to expect. And I think it comes through as a house character, or
Yeah.
Whitmer. It's that balanced approach. If you have an IPA, it's still drinkable. There's still a malt body to it. It's not just a hop explosion. In conclusion, if I had to say one thing about Widmer, I'd have to say this is a craft brew company that has maintained the spirit of homebrewing and ingenuity, but has also managed to create beers that can be served to the mass public. And I think that if you talk about something that's hard to do, that is the most challenging thing to do. Some people might say an extreme recipe or trying to get people to drink this or that. What's hard is to maintain that ingenuity, that spirit of homebrewing, but also find those recipes and find those beers that are going to appeal to a large audience, because that's going to bring more people into appreciating, a sour beer or, sati.
It's a really fine line to walk, and they probably deserve a lot of credit for bringing more and more people into the craft beer fold through beers like their Hefeweizen.
Absolutely. Well, cheers to Widmer.
Cheers to Widmer. Cheers to Portland.
All for brew.
Brew for all.
Well, the first account was Louis XIV.
Doesn't exist anymore. We
Yeah.
trashed it. Literally.
No,
That's a great anecdote. We, the owner came by when we were still building the brewery and said, "I want to be your first account." We were like, "Oh God, we have a customer. We haven't even opened the doors. This is great." So, 3 months later, we give him a call and say, "Okay, we're ready to go." And he says, "Bring it on, boys." So we load up the keg of beer in our 1970 Datsun pickup truck, which was our delivery vehicle and our grain hauling vehicle and our hops hauling vehicle, and took it over to his place. He had another job, so he was away at work. His wife meets us at the door. They hadn't opened for business yet. I think it was like 9 in the morning or something like that. And she says, "Okay, the cooler's down here." We'd never done anything like hook up a keg before. So she says, "Cooler's down here in the basement." She turns on the light. We're looking at these stairs, and she says, "Well, here's a ramp beside the stairs." And so we gathered that you put the keg on this ramp and it goes down. And we'd never done this before. In our defense, probably smarter people would have figured this out, but we put the keg on the ramp. And I think it was Rob's fault, now that I think
It
about
was. I could visualize I was going to walk this keg down, and it just took off.
He was going to walk beside it.
And
as it went
I
down
rode it
this
for a
ramp.
couple steps, but then I just lost it.
So the keg just races down this ramp and disappears kind of into the darkness. And we can hear horrible crashing going on. I mean, like walls being torn down and like just mayhem, just horrible. 160 pounds of stainless steel just roaring through this basement. So we kind of looked at her like, wow, our first account, and we're already out of business, that was fun. She kind of looks back at us and she smiled pleasantly and said, "Oh, that happens all the time." And so we were like, "Oh, we're professionals. We know exactly what we're doing, And so we went down, hunted around in this basement until we found the keg, and then wheeled it over to the cooler and hooked it up and said, "Now you might want to wait like an hour or so and let that settle down a little bit, before you try to." Anyhow, so they were delighted with the beer, but that was our first account.